Welcome to the Honesty Sports Fantasy Football Show. I'm Chris Selmo, alongside my colleagues Jesse Pantusco and Jordan Cohn. Week 11 of the season is here. We have your waiver wire pickups, your stream team, and your stealthy starts. I will get us going, and I'm going to go to a Chicago Bear, and I'm going to go to Darnell Mooney. Still owned in just 45% of Yahoo leagues, which really kind of caught me off guard. Check if he's there, if he's in your league, because the Bears finally have their passing game going like a normal NFL offense should. Justin Fields is starting to build this chemistry with his receivers, and Darnell Mooney has kind of been that top target for him. So you got a chance for a guy who's a top receiver within a, granted it's a bottom tier kind of offense, but he's going to be getting those targets. You've seen the increase here in recent weeks as the Bears have figured out things offensively. So Mooney is going to be putting up some decent numbers. I like him if he's there in your waiver wire. So that's my pickup. Jordan, who are you looking at this week?
I'm going to go with Tennessee Titans running back Foreman. And I'll put my hand up here. I, along with, I assume most other people, were scrambling for either Adrian Peterson or Jeremy McNichols upon hearing the news that Derrick Henry was injured. And that seemed to be the right move at the time. Their first week of Henry-less action looked to trend in that right direction because it was Peterson and McNichols getting the bulk of the snaps. McNichols had 45%, Peterson had 33% back in week 9. In week 10, that script changed all around. Foreman held the slight edge in the snap count. He led in touches, he led in total looks, and in total yards with 78. Now he has a really nice matchup with the Houston Texans in week 11. And if we assume that he's going to have that lead role again, it should lead to very solid fantasy production.
I like that one. Jesse, who are you looking for on the wires this week?
Well, I think the old saying goes, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. The Rams, they had it made it in the shade. Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham Jr., Robert Woods. But because we can't have nice things, Woods, a.k.a. Bobby Trees, tore his ACL at Friday's practice, ending his season before the ink had even dried on Odell's deal. As a perennial Pro Bowler and former Rookie of the Year, Beckham's name obviously carries weight, but coming off major knee surgery and a frustrating 3-year stint in Cleveland, is he really someone the Rams can trust? Time will tell on that front, but with barely any practice time under his belt and only a cursory knowledge of Sean McVay's playbook, it could be a while before he makes a true impact, which is why I think fantasy owners should be taking a long, hard look at Van Jefferson, who, in year 2 of his Rams tenure, has quietly enjoyed a breakout season. Jefferson fell to the second round of last year's draft because of his age, but the 25-year-old is speed to burn, a trait he's demonstrated with 8 catches of 20-plus yards this season. Jefferson's emergence of late, drawing 6 or more targets in 4 straight games, including Monday night's loss at San Francisco, made Deshaun Jackson expendable with the Rams releasing him earlier this month. All I'm saying is, don't be surprised if Jefferson, not Beckham, benefits the most from Woods' injury.
Time now for our stream team, and I have our quarterback for this week. I'm looking out to the Northeast in New England with Mac Jones, and the rookie out of Alabama has been everything the Patriots have hoped, leading the way in that blowout victory over the Browns 45-7. He threw 3 touchdowns on the day, and New England looks like an AFC contender. If you're looking to keep contending in your fantasy league, if you need a quarterback this week, if you got somebody on bye, Mac Jones, check it out. He's probably there to pick up this week. He's really arrow pointing up, and they're really putting a lot more trust with him in that New England offense. So it's been impressive. He's been one of the most impressive rookies this season. I think it's only going to continue on, and it certainly will. Thursday night, got to get him now. You got to commit to that one early in the week, but they're facing a porous Falcons defense. Opportunity there for more points for Mac Jones. So jump on that one if you need a QB this week. Jordan, who's your stream team pickup?
Chris, I like that pick, and it's just so crazy to think that the Patriots are like a top 3 PFF ranked offense this year. Who'd have thought? But testament to Belichick, I guess, and to Mac Jones. For the tight end position, I'm going to go with Tyler Conklin of the Minnesota Vikings. He's kind of been someone who I've chosen multiple times for my own streaming purposes, but this is actually a particularly good week to stream tight ends, which is pretty bizarre for how this season has gone. But there are 3 guys who are pretty widely available: Pat Freiermuth, Dan Arnold, and Tyler Conklin, and they're all available in more than half of leagues. They're also all top 6 tight ends over the past 3 weeks. And Conklin is the one that I'm going to prioritize here. He's seen 24 targets over his past 4 games. He gets to go up against a Packers team that A, should make Kirk Cousins throw the ball a decent amount if their offense is working, and there's some shootout potential there. And B, the Packers also just gave up 8 catches to Gerald Everett in week 10, even when their defense was firing on all cylinders and preventing the Seahawks from doing too much damage. So yeah, I really like Conklin here. He found the end zone twice last week. His chemistry with Kirk Cousins seems to be improving. He's kind of a little gem in the wake of the Irv Smith Jr. injury earlier on. So yeah, I think that Conklin is one of several streaming candidates this week that you could look for.
All right, Jesse, which defense are you streaming this week?
Say it with me, Jordan. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles. You wouldn't know from all the hate Jonathan Gannon's been getting on local radio, but the Eagles defense has been, as Larry David might say, pretty good, producing 36 fantasy points in their last 3 games. In fact, only the Patriots have scored more fantasy points than Philadelphia since week 8. The Eagles have no doubt benefited from a cupcake schedule with recent games against Denver and the winless Lions. Fortunately, that trend will continue when the Saints visit in week 11. New Orleans has lost 2 straight, and though Trevor Siemian has managed to avoid turnovers, he hasn't exactly inspired much confidence either, completing just 57.7% of his throws while filling in for injured starter Jameis Winston. New Orleans just doesn't have the bodies right now, with Michael Thomas done for the year and Alvin Kamara nursing a knee injury that kept him out of Sunday's loss to Tennessee. The Saints lost when they came to Philadelphia a year ago, and I wouldn't be surprised if history repeats itself with the 4-6 Eagles finally hitting their stride.
Time now for our stealthy starts this week, and I'm looking up to Green Bay and A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones goes down with an injury, likely just a 1 to 2 week deal with the knee. Fortunately, he avoided a more serious injury, but A.J. Dillon's going to get that opportunity. You saw that in that ground and pound kind of game. They had that 17-0 win against the Seahawks on Sunday. 21 carries, 66 yards, but more importantly, 2 touchdowns for Quadzilla. He's going to be that running back 1 for Green Bay. And look, I don't know how much they're going to be throwing the ball and winging it with Aaron Rodgers still kind of getting back into form and figuring things out with a group of receivers that have been up and down this season. They really rely on that run game up in Green Bay. And A.J. Dillon's going to get those opportunities, especially inside the 5 in those goal-to-go situations where he's got that power and he's able to get into the end zone. If you've had him stashed all season, this is your lucky week. Put A.J. Dillon in your starting lineup. I think you're going to get a lot out of him this week. So that's my pickup. Jordan, who's your stealthy start this week?
Couldn't agree with that pick more, and I'm going to go with someone else who owners might have held on to, might have given up on, kind of hard to say, and that is Robby Anderson of the Carolina Panthers. At this point last season, he was a top 24 wideout. He was a must-start week in and week out. He was in sync with Teddy Bridgewater. As of week 10 in this season, he is the number 65 wide receiver. He has been borderline unplayable. Needless to say, things haven't been all that great after he signed a 2-year extension worth around $30 million this offseason. But things could be looking up because he clearly wasn't in sync with Sam Darnold, which is odd because Darnold was his former quarterback. But he looked pretty good in week 10 with a mix of PJ Walker and Cam Newton under center. Newton could be the starter going forward. It's reportedly trending that way, and Newton was who found him for a touchdown early in the game. So I think that bodes pretty well. Maybe it's definitely a riskier pick, but it gets a little bit easier to stomach when you see that the Washington football team is their week 11 opponent. They've been the second most generous fantasy defense to wide receivers on the year. That's another plus for Anderson. So, hey, if you've been holding on to him, this might be the week that you want to put him in your starting lineup and just hope for the best. It's definitely a little risky. I think it's pretty stealthy. So yeah, I'll go with Anderson here.
Yeah, a lot of intrigue with that Carolina offense going into that matchup against Ron Rivera and Washington, as you mentioned. So be a fun one to watch. Jesse, finish us off. Who's your stealthy start this week?
Well, as the final score, 45-17, would indicate, not a lot went right for the Jets Sunday against Buffalo. But the glass half full community did have one silver lining to hang its hat on: the continued development of Michael Carter, who amid the Jets' season-long struggles has emerged as a legitimate fantasy RB2. The rookie has been a bright spot in an otherwise disastrous Jets offense, averaging 111 yards from scrimmage over his last 4 games. In that span, he's produced 76.4 PPR points, 3rd most among fantasy running backs. People forget Carter was the NCAA's 4th leading rusher a year ago, despite sharing a college backfield with Javonte Williams, who went 2 rounds ahead of him in April's draft. Negative game script tends to hurt running backs on losing teams, but because he's so involved in the Jets' passing game, Carter is a rare exception to that rule. Facing a Dolphins team that's already allowed 10 touchdowns to opposing running backs this year, look for Carter to break the slate in Week 11.
All right, Week 11 is here. For Jordan Cohen, Jesse Pantusco, I'm Chris Sema. This is the Odyssey Sports Fantasy Football Show.